we'll start with a sound check. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can people in the audience hear? Okay, so that's loud enough, not too loud? Okay, good. Thanks, Scott. We acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory and that the land on which we gather is ancestral lands of the Anishinaabeg Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We acknowledge that our water is sourced from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation. Welcome, everyone, to our Sunday, October 16th worship today. Besides about 25 people in our sanctuary, we also welcome about 6 people joining us on our YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Glenn Merritt, and I will be leading worship today. Since October has 5 Sundays, Dawn is away today on one of her 5th Sunday breaks. Just a reminder that masks are now optional, so practice whatever you are comfortable with. Also note, a collection plate is at the back of the sanctuary for those who need it. We are very pleased today to have Harvey Heather, volunteer coordinator. I think that title's correct. Is it Harvey?
Well, it's now site lead, but yes.
Yeah, okay. Just a minute, I've lost my place. With Oak Table to speak to us. Churchill Park has had a long relationship with Oak Table, although many volunteers have had to step back due to COVID. I'm sure you'll appreciate his update. For those of you who have not read the weekly announcements yet, I'll cover some highlights. Dawn and Cindy will be in the office on Wednesday and Thursday mornings if you need to see them in person. Otherwise, they are reachable by phone or email on Tuesday and Friday. The ukulele group will meet Wednesday at 7 p.m., and the leadership team will meet Thursday at 7 p.m. Next Saturday at 2 p.m., there's a celebration of life here for Dorothy Davies. Dorothy had moved away several years ago to be closer to family. Our condolences to her family. I'd also like to mention another passing in our neighborhood, that of Jimmy Aikenhead, who was struck down by a car on Osborne last weekend. Jimmy was a fixture in the neighborhood and a close friend of Rob Duncan. Jimmy was also a big fan of the Churchill Park garage sale and was usually one of the first lined up at the door at opening. His service is Monday at 7 p.m. at Corbin Funeral Chapel on Main Street. Today is birthday Sunday. Do we have any October birthdays? Okay, I see Wayne, I see Susan, and Janet. Oh, and Jenny. Oh, my goodness, what a prolific month. And are there any anniversaries? I don't see any. I guess people didn't like to get married in October. Anyway, can we play birthday, happy birthday? Before we proceed, are there any announcements from the congregation for the week ahead? Okay, that's good. The prelude? Supposed to light a candle, but I don't see it here. So anyway, I'll pretend we have a candle, and I say we light this flame to honor diversity, to celebrate difference, and to embrace all within sacred and circle of love. Please join me with these gathering words. We gather here as the human ones of creation. We name ourselves threads in the web of life. We give thanks for our connections, that we are all part of one another, and that all are part of the sacred. Please join me for the opening prayer. Spirit of life and love, we gather in this sacred place. A place of wisdom, a place of connection, a place of hope. We gather in this time. A time set aside for listening, for contemplation, for prayer. May we together in this time and place create a circle of love that is ever expanding, ever growing. May it be so. Please stand as we sing our opening hymn from More Voices, number 169, When Hands Reach Out Beyond Divides.
Our first reading for today comes from Psalms chapter 31, verses 7 to 8. I will be glad and rejoice in your unfailing love, for you have seen my troubles, and you care about the anguish of my soul. You have not handed me over to my enemies, but you have set me free. But you have set me in a safe place. This is our reading. May our ears hear, may our hearts be led to understanding.
As we enter the silence, together let us claim this time of stillness as let us continue to be in silence together.
Our second reading for today comes from Romans chapter 12, verses 3 to 8. Because of the privilege and authority God has given me, I give you each of this warning. Don't think you are better than you really are. Be honest in your evaluation of yourselves, measuring yourselves by the faith God has given us. Just as our bodies have many parts, and each part has a special function, so it is with Christ's body. We are many parts of one body, and we all belong to each other. In His grace, God has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. So, if God has given you the ability to prophesy, speak out with as much faith as God has given you. If your gift is serving others, serve them well. If you are a teacher, teach well. If your gift is to encourage others, be encouraging. If it is giving, give generously. If God has given you leadership ability, take the responsibility seriously. And if you have a gift for showing kindness to others, do it gladly. This is our reading. May our hearts hear, and may our hearts be led to understanding.
Jane? You're certainly getting your exercise.
Sorry. Our third reading for today comes from Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 to 40. But when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit upon his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered in his presence, and he will separate the people as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will place the sheep at his right hand and the goats at his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me." Then these righteous ones will reply, "Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink, or a stranger show you hospitality, or naked and give you clothing? When did you ever see you sick or in prison and visit you?" And the king will say, "I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me." This is our reading. May our ears hear, and may our hearts be led to understanding.
Our message today will be from Harvey Heather, who is, I'd say, a fixture at Oak Table. I've known him for many years. He's a very gentle man, and when I see him interacting very calmly with many of our guests, I'm just astounded because I would be angry at times, and Harvey has a great way of dealing with people in a very dignified way. Harvey, maybe when you come up, you can correct your title. I'm sorry I got it wrong. Okay. Harvey Heather.
Thank you all very much for the warm welcome here, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about Oak Table. And Glenn, your kind words. You know what, the amazing thing is, all the volunteers, it's not just me, we have an amazing group of volunteers who help to serve our folks. And I would like, if possible, to ask all of you who volunteer or have volunteered at Oak Table, could you stand up for just a moment and be recognized? I know there's lots of you here. So thank you so much again. These folks, yeah. So in the readings today, it talks obviously about serving others, about using our gifts, about giving hospitality to folks, to strangers, to the homeless, to those who maybe don't have as much as many of us do. And that's what we hopefully do every day at Oak Table, is use those gifts for all our great volunteers, but also our donors and our sponsors to enable us to do what we do at Oak Table. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Wenja City and about Oak Table, and then talk about a little bit about some of the programs that we have. Actually, when I was writing this down, I thought, this is going to take forever. I didn't realize how many great things that our volunteers provide to our guests. So Wenja City oversees Oak Table, West Broadway, and West End. We are all partners that way. And the pillars of Wenja City are loving the underloved, working towards reconciliation, growing individuals' capacity, building inclusive communities. And Oak Table's mission is similar, but it's a little bit different, is to provide hospitality, support, and advocacy to those in need of a safe, respectful community. And again, all those gifts that folks have are sharing meet all those requirements, or I think most of them. So last year at Oak Table, we provided 31,000 meals and just under 7,000 food kits. That's one of the basic needs, of course, is to feed people. And that's the main thing that people come for. However, that's just a kind of a drop in the bucket compared to all the other needs that folks have. On average, our amazing volunteers serve 120 guests each day, Monday to Thursday. On Fridays, recently, I guess in the past few months, we've started a breakfast program on Friday mornings from 9:30 to about 11:30. And there we serve 40 to 45 guests. And this is a little different than our usual days because people come in, they sit down at tables that have nice tablecloths, they have napkins, sometimes a little vase of flowers, and we also provide them with a menu. So the treatment is, we call them guests, and that's how we want to treat them. So the idea is that they are treated as a guest when they come in to be fed. So on the menu, they have some choices. Now, pretty much everything that we run on at Oak Table is donated through grants, through donations, through gifts of all kinds to Oak Table. So we do have often choices that people can make. They might have cereal on that day, eggs and hash browns or toast, yogurt, even simple as a choice between peanut butter and jam. Often our folks, when they go to other places as well as Oak Table, they don't have a lot of choice. They come in, we put in front of them what we have, and they eat. So it's so nice to see the reaction of people when they come to this Friday morning meal. One lady said, "I feel so special. This is like breakfast at Tiffany's." And that was the best compliment we could have about that service, because so many of us take for granted going to a restaurant or a nice place where we can sit down at a meal and be treated like that. And most of our folks don't get that. So it was really nice to be able to provide that. But Monday to Friday, we still try to do the same thing. We try to have them come in and we serve them with grace and kindness and calmness, because often they don't have that out in the streets. Many people don't have a lot of support. When we took a bunch of folks out to the beach at Birds Hill, many of them hadn't been to a beach before. But we asked them, just in case, could we have an emergency contact? If something ever happened, not that we're thinking it will, but if something happens, who would we contact? And we were astounded at how many people had no one. Do you have a friend, family member, somebody lives in your apartment, or someone you hang out with on the street? Nope. So that's where one of the things we really want to do is to build a sense of community for folks, because so few of them have that. So when they come to Oak Table, they also tell us that they don't feel very safe out in the street. So they come to Oak Table, they say they feel calm. So even for a couple of hours a day, they have that sense, I can sit down, I can take part in some programs, I can have a good meal, and then hopefully that gets them through the next little while. We have over 600 of our guests that have been at least double vaxxed. And that was a big thing to us, because we realized with COVID, of course, over the past few years, we weren't able to open up and serve people inside. A lot of places still, I know Agape Table serves about 700 people a day, all outside. All they can do really is hand out sandwiches, and that's still a great thing, don't get me wrong. But the part that's missing is that building that sense of acceptance, community, building a relationship with each person that comes in, because that, I think, is with all of us in isolation, has been a big thing, right? So we want to make sure that now we can open up with those vaccines provided. I think we had about 13 vaccine clinics over the past couple of years. We have another one coming up next week. And that, again, is to keep us safe. The three things we try to do, we don't have a lot of rules as such. We don't put no drinking, no swearing, no all these things. There's three things that we ask: be safe, be respectful, and be responsible. And those things kind of cover almost all of the things that we want. If people are being disrespectful, we might ask them, you don't seem to be feeling so good today. How about we feed you and you can head out and come back tomorrow when you're feeling better, rather than saying, you can't come in here. So we do still try to treat them with respect. It was quite interesting a few weeks ago. There was a fellow who was having a bad day, and he was kind of loud and swearing a bit. And before any of our staff or volunteers could talk to him, one of the other guests walked up to him and said, you know what, you're not being respectful. So it was really great that they're sort of absorbing that feel, because when you feel safe, you feel respected, and you feel responsible for the space. We had some guests that have come into our new space, which has been there for about now a year and a half. And after a year, this person had come in and they said, wow, this place is spotless. It looks like, just like it's brand new. And that's a testament to, of course, our volunteers who keep everything really clean, and our staff. But it's also a testament to how our guests respect this space, because they know. We've tried to tell them, hey, this space is yours. This is where you can come. This place was designed to meet some of the needs that you may have and other people here. So we want you to be respectful of it too, and these seem to be. So that's really great. We have, as I said, many programs. On Wednesdays, we have an art program. We have bingo. We have movies. We have a foot care program once about every 2 weeks. The great thing about the foot care is, and again, it's something that most of us don't realize, some of us have had problems with our feet or our legs. been sore for a little while, but usually we go to the doctor and we get whatever we need to get that fixed up. But a lot of our folks have chronic problems, but they also don't have cars to get around, bicycles or bus fare. So they use their feet to get around, and if their feet are in bad shape, they don't have good footwear, they can be really affected badly, not just their feet, but their overall health. If it's painful to walk, then it certainly is not good for your health if you can't get around very much. We try to help them with bus fare for a lot of folks. One year, I think we spent $2,500 on bus tickets, which is a lot of money, all donated by generous folks who wanted to help our guests. But $2,500 worth of bus tickets is really a drop in the bucket. If you figure 120 plus people a day times the whole year, it's really tough to be able to give each person that asks for a bus ticket. So many we have to say, no, I'm sorry, we can't help you today. But we certainly try when it's cold out, when it's super hot out, when somebody's having a real trouble with mobility or needs to get to a doctor's appointment or other important thing in their life. We try to help them as much as we can, but it's impossible for us to give everything that people ask for. So that's certainly something that's always needed. We share things like toiletries, socks and underwear is a big thing. Again, most people don't want to ask a stranger for socks or underwear or feminine products, but those are all needs for folks that come into Oak Table. And it is amazing to me, and as a man, having a woman come up to me and say, can you get me some tampons or something like that? And of course, we try not even to flinch. Yes, that's what we're here for. But it's really humbling that people have the trust in us, not just me, but again, all of our volunteers as well, that they know that we're there to help them. And so that feels pretty good when people come in and trust us. And that's one of the big things that we try to do, is build that sense of community to folks. When I first started, I think as a volunteer for a couple of years, I could see somebody, talk to them for a little while, and then they would just give me an impression of themselves, and I think, okay, I know what this person needs. 9 times out of 10, I'm wrong. Yeah. It's only when we actually get to know the folks, and they get to know us, and they get to trust us, that we can have a real conversation about some of the things that they actually really do need help with. That's where Oak Table can make a really big difference in folks, because that's when we can find resources for them. We can't do everything at Oak Table, but what we do try to do is reach out to the resources available in our communities. Access Fort Garry, through the WRHA, has been partners with us for the last few years, and they come in every couple of months, or I should say twice every month, and they set up different things. We've had dental screening, we've had times when folks can get IDs, we've had smoking reduction programs, and health surveys to help find out what it is that we can help out with these folks. So they will find resources for people. Tomorrow, actually, we're having an occupational therapist come in to Oak Table, and they are going to give a presentation about fall prevention. So as winter gets here, things get icy, how can you protect yourself as much as possible to prevent a fall? Because we know how disastrous that can be for people. We also have a foot care program that happens twice a month, and it is amazing. We have 2 professional foot care nurses who come in as volunteers, and they look at people's feet, trim their nails, look at some of the injuries that they might have, some dealing with diabetes, some serious one. Just in the past week, this fellow is complaining about pain in his foot. She looked at his feet, and he had a really horrible, his big toe had been stubbed and torn, and so she made arrangements for him to see somebody a doctor to really take a look at that and help them out. But people often, some of our guests who may not have a whole lot have gone out and bought a $5 gift card and giving it, tried to give it to our foot care nurse for all the great help, which is, again, is really humbling. People have so little and they share so much often. We have haircuts once a month, which again is such a blessing for people. We all like to get our hair cut and hopefully look a little better than we do today. But a lot of these folks, for a while with COVID, some of them went for months without a haircut, and they kept asking, when could we get haircuts? Again, with the vaccinations, being able to open up, we now have that once a month. 5 or 6 hairstylists come in from one of our partners, and they do that for them. And the people are often just beaming when they finish getting their hair cut. You can just tell that they feel so much better. So those are some of the things. In terms of reconciliation, we talked about One Just City and their pillars. Reconciliation is really important to us. We certainly all know, and it's all over the news, and all the horrible things are coming to light of what happened during residential schools and the 60s scoop. We have hired several people in each of our sites. We have a couple of people, Indigenous Cultural Program staff, who teach us, the people who aren't Indigenous, about some of the customs and traditions and things about the Indigenous folks. Some of them are Métis, some of them are other Indigenous groups, and I was really surprised to hear how much difference there is in the treatment by the government, but also by people, about the Métis people, how they don't get often the same benefits as Indigenous folks do. So we have 2 Métis folks on our staff as well. They do things like sharing circles, and I was able to attend a couple of them myself. And again, it's an opportunity for people to come in, sit down, and share their innermost concerns, some things going back years and years and years, often generations, about how themselves or their family has been treated, and how angry and bitter and pained they are. And our Indigenous folks, our cultural programmers, are trying to help them sort through that. And that's a first step. The sharing circles are where they can talk about these things. Our next step is to look for resources to get them help, to hopefully make things a little bit less painful, a little bit more uplifting for them, so that they can enjoy life. Some are living these things every day, and they can't seem to get it out of their minds how pained they are. But with help from our Indigenous staff and our regular volunteers too. The volunteers who come in and treat them so well that they realize, hey, you know what, life isn't so bad. I can take this whatever hour or 2 hours that I'm here at Oak Table, and I know I'm going to be treated well. I can forget about some of those things for a little while. In November, on the 1st, we are opening up Just a Warm Sleep. That was started several years ago by One Just City, when a lady froze to death outside, I believe in a bus shack. And they decided, you know what, this is not acceptable, and it isn't, of course. So they started Just a Warm Sleep, where we can have about 30 folks come in, stay overnight, who are homeless. They get fed. We get them warm, safe clothes. We can actually wash their clothes while they have a shower, because we now have shower facilities. And in the morning, they can hopefully have a good sleep, a full belly. They can walk out there with clean and hopefully warm clothing. And so those are some of the things that we try to provide. What we did find, though, with Just a Warm Sleep, there's a big gap. There's a gap between when people leave Oak Table at, say, our lunch generally is from 12 to about 3. So they go out, and then at 8 o'clock, they can go into Just a Warm Sleep. Well, okay, that's about 5 hours where they're outside in the winter, 40 below weather, and no place to go. So what we're trying to do now, we've hired some evening staff, and we're trying to build some programs that people can stay in the afternoon and early evening and then transition right into just a warm sleep. So those are some of the things that we're trying to do now. We have many other supporters, people who provide food for us, folks who provide volunteers and staff, meals, socks, underwear, all those things are so much appreciated. And I know this church has also donated money for us to use for some of these programs. We simply cannot do what we do without the help from folks like yourselves. And we certainly hope that that will continue. In order to feed folks, we do need the dollars and the food to do that, the underwear and socks. And one thing, like some people do bring in socks and underwear, and that's wonderful. But the one thing I want to let you know is sometimes if you, let's say you spent whatever, $10 on socks or underwear, we can often make that $10 go a lot further ourselves because we have connections. For example, one lady provides, I think they're about $30 really well-made underwear for $2 a pair. It's even cheaper than going to Giant Tiger or something like that. So those dollars are really important as well, and sometimes we can leverage that to get even more help for our guests. So I just want to thank all of you for listening. I want to thank you for our volunteers again and our donors. If you have any questions at the end of the service, I'd love to answer them for you. And please carry on. I love this church, and I love the kindness everybody has shown me. And I want to thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harvey. I think you really painted a very broad picture. I learn things that I don't know, but I just volunteer on Tuesdays, so there's so much additional things that are going on. Please stand as we sing Voices United Hymn 600, When I Needed a Neighbor. Please join me in prayer. Spirit of life and love, in caring for one another, in sheltering one another, in holding one another. We remember now all those named in the silence of our hearts. We pray in solidarity with those who do not have the freedom to express their concern or celebration for fear of discrimination or condemnation. In all our joys and in all our concerns, may we be ever mindful of the presentness of the sacred among us and to see the new possibilities of the now. Please join me as we recite the Abba prayer. Our Mother, whose body is the earth, sacred is your being. Your gardens grow. Your will be done in our cities as it is in nature. Thanks be this day for food and air and water. Forgive us our sins as we learn to forgive one another. And surrender us not unto extinction, but deliver us from our folly. For yours is the beauty and the power and all life from birth to death, from beginning to end. Amen. So be it. Forever blessed. I mentioned there's a collection plate at the back for those who need it. As we share our resources, please recite with me. We give thanks. For our life and the courage we are given to live it. May our gratitude for life be expressed in our generosity. May our faith be expressed in good causes. May our belief in the future find full expression in our daily attitude of mind. Amen. Please join me in our closing hymn, Voices United, hymn 702, When a Poor One. I'd like to give a big thanks to Harvey for his enlightening message today, and also thanks to Jane for our readings, and to Scott for keeping the PowerPoint on track, and for delivering our YouTube Live presentation. We'll be doing a sung benediction, and I'm going to call on Arlene to describe how she would like it done.
You've heard this before. The choir did it in our Korean service. Last week we tried it together, and being it was new for you last week, we did each of those melodies 3 times. Today, I think we're going to do the first melody twice, the second melody twice, and then we'll go back to the first melody. Now, if all this means nothing to you, don't worry. Just do what others are doing around you.
I'd like to invite everyone for birthday cake and coffee after the service, and we'll conclude with the postlude. I'd like to thank you all for attending today, and we'll see you in the lounge.